All right, this is work limitations in regards to working on the assault bike and energy system training on the assault bike. Basically meaning that for people to do actual work on the assault bike and to improve all three of the energy systems that we'll get into, should you wish to do that, there are some things that inhibit that from happening. So the best place to go to actually improve work capacity and to improve your actual experience on this is to know actually what limits people to be able to express that. So there's three main things that get in the way of people being able to express really effectively on the assault bike and just really effectively in all different kinds of energy system training. Yeah, I could say that. And those are the intention, the actual person and what makes them up, and the modality, which we'll go into detail. Secondly, which I'll discuss in a little more briefer concept that will be shown to be a lot easier to understand as we practice gain, pain, and sustain in that language. Once you get to know that, you'll see that you can categorize some major physiological limitations, not because they are the answers to those limitations, but it allows you as a user or a coach who's going to be instructing someone to understand on a more deeper level where those things are coming from. And then we'll figure out strategies once you learn how to do gain, pain, and sustain to be able to improve what you see as those limitations. After this as well, coming up, we'll talk about how to assess each of these areas of energy systems. And then if you know where they sit on each of those energy systems, you know exactly what limits a person's performance. There should be no reason why we can't move forward in improving capacity, if that's what the goal is on the assault bike. So first, what do we mean by intention? Well, we have to get into an area of, although it's a challenging word, but a belief in what we believe to be the ultimate goal with the practice of the assault bike and improving energy systems. And that's what we mean by intention. What's the entire overarching reason as to why you're doing what you're doing? And so I'm going to propose that there should be an idea in place of making people as sustainable as possible as being the overarching goal. That's the base support for all energy system processes, okay? Especially for the assault bike and how to improve it. So the intention dictates how people will perform when we say, do this kind of work. Just think about that. Their reason for doing it and why they're doing it has the largest part to play with how they're going to actually try to attempt the work. Think about that in the context of incorrect behaviors and then practicing energy system training. Meaning, maybe someone's intention is to be popular. And I'll just give you an asinine kind of concept of it, but that's their reason for doing energy system training. Can you see how that's futile in the approach of trying to improve work capacity? Their intention is to look really good doing it. So the intention is completely incorrect as to why they're participating in the practice of trying to improve work. If your intention is to burn, crash and burn, right? That's your intention. To get into so much pain that it's somewhat painful, somewhat pleasurable, and then you just can't do any more work. If that's the intention, then there are certain ways for you to get after that, but you can see that it doesn't add to you being able to complete all of the energy system training and all different kinds of work most effectively, because you essentially just teach yourself how to become a specialist at crashing and burning. I could give you numerous examples, but it goes into you understanding that how you approach each of the sessions of gain, pain, sustain, or doing energy system training on the bike has to be built upon a proper intention of what you're trying to get out of that session. And lastly, before we get into talking about a person's essence and how that determines things, it should be based on you being able to do energy system training for a lifetime. And so we use the terminology of the ultimate prize is actually sustainable excellence. So the intention going into trying to do all of the energy system training pieces on the assault bike of gain, pain, and sustain is such that you could do all different kinds of energy system training forever. Do you see the whole concept is intentionally based on sustainability? Okay? Person dictates how someone is going to be able to accomplish the work, i.e. the person's training age, their chronological age, we'll call it a sporting age, or their ability on the bike, their size, their technical ability, their proficiency, all those things. Just think of it. That's what makes up the person, largely dictates how they're going to perform work, how they're going to express it, and how they're going to recover from it. Just think clearly to kind of stretch your brain a little bit on how that differs from person to person. Well, a really simple way is this. Get 100 people and take all of those 100 people of different forms in their life, different times in their life, and put them all through a 10-minute test on the bike. Just for shits and giggles, but what you'll get out of that is 100 different stories, right? So what does that tell you? The person, their makeup, their experience, their mindset, all those things go into how they do the work for the 10 minutes. Okay? Another example. Let's say someone has 0 training experience and is on a continuum of what we consider strength. They're really weak. Okay? So if you have someone try to express something on here, can you see that the limitation to them expressing work is what? They don't have the experience. They don't have the practice. So the person's experience, I'll add another story to it, someone's been training for 12 years, and they've been using the assault bike for 10 out of those 12 years. At least twice a week. Let's quickly do the math. 50 weeks a year, 100 times, 1,000 sessions on this puppy. 1,000 sessions on this puppy, right? Can you see how now the prescription for that person, I'm assuming technical capabilities, right? I'm assuming a broad base, big volume of experience. They understand the metrics, right? Do you think getting them on there like the first person I talked about is going to be the same experience? Completely different experience. So the person and what makes them up in the training age largely dictates how they're going to experience work. When I design for you and also take you through the concept of energy system training, you'll see that where the person's experience fits into how you can express gain, pain, and sustain. But to be quick on it, when people start out on experience as a person, they can truly only express sustainable activities. As they gain experience, they can gain the ability to do pain on the bike, and as they gain strength, they can gain the ability to be able to do gain on the bike. And we'll explain that in much more detail. The third aspect, we indirectly discussed about the history of the assault bike, as well as looking at work in itself, is that each modality, outside of just discussing the assault bike, will largely dictate how people are limited by work. Okay? Take the example of a ski erg, right? Just think of it. My quads are not going to be a limiting factor in my expression for the ski erg. Okay? Do you see that? If you can't see that, I'll give you another example. My triceps are not going to be a limiting factor for me to express work on a rower. Right? Think about that. I'm pulling something towards me. How much these guys are working has nothing to do with the actual activity. Right? Let's think of a VersaClimber. Right? If I'm doing a VersaClimber going up and down, how strong my upper back is doesn't have much to do with how I can express work on it. I'll give you more and more examples. When I'm running, right, I have a broken pinky. How much does that have to do with how I can express work? I give you these examples so you can recognize that the modality that you use largely dictates how it's going to impede work. So when you're using the assault bike, that goes into as well how people will express work and when they're going to get tired in that work. And for some people, it's different areas of the body and mainly around lower body muscle endurance. That's the main limiting factor inside of there. So just based upon that alone, with the modality we're working with here, we have a little bit of upper body push and pull, right? We have the core recruitment, that's a minor maximal voluntary contraction. I would even argue that we haven't had so much data set up to midsection EEG or like electrodes inside to dictate how much our core is turned on during this, but I would say it's roughly around 20 to 40% maximal voluntary contractions, right? If we just think about that, how much is our core turned on in terms of a contraction during the activity? So the upper body, a little bit. Core, a little bit. Lower body, really important. Really important. So what's a limiting factor in you doing really good work on the assault bike? How well you can make your legs become enduring. 4, what we say the ultimate goal is to be able to express this amount of work for a really long period of time. Okay? So when you think about limitations to actual activity, it now gets you to stretch your brain beyond just using the assault bike to be able to see that we get so caught up in looking at something and forgetting that it's just a contraction and it's just a piece of work that someone wants to do for a long period of time. And just see it as that. And if you see it as that, you'll start recognizing that a lot of things go into dictating why people are really good at it or why they suck at it. And those reasons are generally intention, the person's makeup, or the actual modality that they're using. And when you get that in place, you'll start recognizing that your ability to do work you'll open your mind to the ability to do work and what prevents you from doing it going forward. Briefly, on a physiological level, I'm going to give you a construct to 3 areas that could be considered limitations, and I just bucket them just for a starting point knowledge for users to understand some physiology around what could be limitations for that. So you want to think of the blood, lungs, and muscles as a team of 3. This team of 3 has to work together in order for you to do all forms of work. This is the rules that apply. When you do work on the assault bike, all of this team has to work in unison, albeit at different amounts, and someone has to step up in certain areas more than others, okay? But never in any work, when you do on the assault bike, do each of these 3 not have to work in cohesion with one another, okay? The reason why that's important to know is that it would then make sense if we're positing that as being the baseline understanding of this teamwork, that we would not want to focus on each or only one of these in our exercise. Wouldn't that make sense? It would make sense to build your base of support of work, of coordinating this as an efficient team. This team needs to work together. Blood basically just means that the limitation is largely based upon how well you can take energy from the blood and send it to the periphery and the efficiency of that. Lungs is about respiration, getting air in and out, and your efficiency to be able to work as that as a team. Muscles, as it sounds, right at the muscle level, how well those contractions can use fuel, and how they can inter and intramuscular coordinate with one another to get the work done. Okay? So if you think about this going forward, you know now, you can't not know it, you know that there's a team that has to work together. And you know that there's limitations based upon how you're going to do that work. It now sets the tone for us going forward to recognize that we want all 3 of these folks working together effectively such that you can express what you want to do in energy system training on the bike. And knowing going in what you're looking to do, what makes you up as a person, and because we are using the bike, it's going to have a great base support going forward so we can now learn about energy system training and how to apply it most effectively.